Yes, our God is a mountain mover, and you know what? He's still moving mountains every day. And the good news is He can move your mountains too. Hi there, this is Chuck Cooper, host of It's a God Thing radio program. Thank you for joining us today. We sure are glad you're here. You're about to listen to some awesome interviews with believers in Jesus Christ who will tell you how God has revealed and proved Himself to them by moving mountains they were unable to move by themselves. They say that their stories can only be described as a God thing. Ready for a real blessing? Alrighty then, let's do this God thing.
Well, I'm sitting here with my friend Dan, who lives in Clay County, Georgia. Dan is a recovering alcoholic, and he's got a tremendous story to tell about how God helped him get through and is still continuing to help him get through his alcoholism. Well, Dan, welcome to the program. The first thing I'd like to ask you is, how did you start drinking in the first place, and how long have you been sober?
I've started drinking just like most high school age kids do.
So you started in high school?
Yes, sir. Well, I had my first drink of alcohol, earlier when I was younger. My dad gave me a cup of beer, and I remember it put me to sleep. But later on in high school, I'll never forget the first time that we got some guys to buy some beers, and it was 2 6-packs between 3 or 4 of us, and it was probably ended up being 3 apiece. But that was 3 beers in succession. So I had found my missing link, so to speak. Everything seemed to fit. You felt good in your skin. You felt who you were. It was an empowering thing, but that's just the beginning of how something like that starts. Right. I know because the finishing up part's not nearly as enjoyable or pretty.
I bet. Now you mentioned to me earlier that your dad was an alcoholic, or he drank a lot?
Yes, sir. I consider him an alcoholic. He's probably having one now, but he's almost 83, and his drinking, we'd go fishing and he might drink a beer, but he's more like a 5:30 in the afternoon.
5 o'clock somewhere.
Yeah, he won't have one before then. And to me, it didn't matter if it was in the morning or any time. If I was ready for one, I'd have one. Morning time, lunch, or any time.
Now, you were still in high school when you're doing this?
No, sir. No, sir.
Okay.
That was just weekends.
Oh, okay.
High school, I remember a 6-pack was my limit on, 6-pack Friday night, 6-pack Saturday night, if we were able to get it. And there were stores where you could buy it. Underaged. It was never a problem.
Well, what was your life like, Dan, when you finally realized, or maybe even before you realized, but when you were drinking, what was your life like after you got out of high school and got into the workforce?
Well, I married in 91, and that marriage didn't last long. Because
of the drinking?
It had a lot to do with it. A lot of my just being there and being around. My wife had an affair and was pregnant by the other guy.
Oh my gosh.
Before our divorce was final. And that was, my drinking probably, it didn't help a budding alcoholic to go through that. But I look back.
Did that cause you to drink more?
Yes, I believe so. I tried to drink it out of my mind, but when you wake up, it's instantly back on your mind.
Right.
And that takes time. I've been reading something lately. It's not the things that happen to you that may show what kind of man you are. It's the things that you do after what happens to you. That's what makes you your character, I guess.
Now, you were in business for yourself and started a business, and tell us about that and how you lost that business.
I was in line work for 7 years.
And by the way, Dan, you're a certified and licensed top-of-the-line electrician.
Yes. I was in line work with the city. I left there after 7 years to start my own business, and it was a lot of free time. And I wasn't prepared to. I didn't know what I was doing, and And that my drinking escalated a lot then because just had more free time to drink. Mm-hmm. I used to wonder if my drinking was causing my problems or my problems causing my drinking, but I know how it goes. Life's so much nicer today. As a problem comes along, you can't drink it away. You need to deal with it and handle it and move on to the next problem that arises.
You got to that point, Dan, but when did you first realize that you were an alcoholic?
My sister she was a stockbroker, and she had a client that was a recovering alcoholic, and that's how I was introduced to AA. She knew my troubles and what I was going through, and he got me to go to my first meeting, but I still didn't get it. I didn't, because the AA, they'll tell you to quit and don't take the next drink, but nobody tells you how. Mm-hmm. Because I didn't. It was a daily thing. I was a daily drinker, and I didn't know that one day at a time you can not drink. When people get to the doors of asking for recovery, their brains are mush. They need somebody to lead them one foot in front of the other.
Well, let's go back to how you lost your business. Could you just not show up for work, or didn't feel like working?
Well, yeah. Well, that was
forget to go to work, or
well, it kept the folks real proud of you because you would show up or not show up. I know contractors in general have a bad rap about showing up when they want to, and it's even worse with an alcoholic because a lot of times I wasn't able to go, much less even be out and seen in public because you felt so bad in the later stages of alcoholism. Certain days you're shaking like a leaf, and to have to sign your signature was a nightmare because you knew, to an alcoholic's mind, because he's going to be watching me and sign, and you had the shakes almost all the time. Mm-hmm. Electrician's not a good thing to do.
I was going to ask you about that.
I was a lineman.
Oh, man.
And was going, that's my first time in business, and I was introduced to AA, and I wasn't staying sober. It was just getting worse. And my mother and my sister, they had called and got arranged for me to go to Albany. And I was ready to go. I was ready. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. This was in 98. I went. It was in detox for 7 days. Then they had a 28-day program that I went to. And so I was in Albany for 35 days. They clean you up and feed you good. And, you stay sober if you want to or not. So I did well. After that point, I stayed sober 14 months. Mm-hmm.
And then why'd you go back?
Back to drinking?
Yes, sir.
Well, it was my insecurities. I can blame it on that. I went to a lady friend's house, and she had a bottle of rum on the table, and my shyness. I call alcohol a social lubricant.
A social lubricant?
Yes, sir.
That's probably good.
And I asked her, I said, and this is after 14 months. I knew I wasn't being smart, but when I was in treatment, the director there, he told me, he said, I can't tell you why you're alcoholic, because you give them a life story.
Sure.
In there. And after I did my life story, he said, I can't tell you why you're alcoholic. That's just what an alcoholic wants to hear.
Yeah.
So I said, that lady's got the rum on the table, and I said, well, maybe it's not nothing to this thing. Maybe things are different now. And that's just...
And they worked.
They say the drug, it and your addiction will tell you it's all right.
Right.
But I had a few drinks of that rum that night, and the world didn't fall apart. And if I drank tonight, I wouldn't go on some kind of a rampage or nothing, but it would be the next night I'd say, well, that night went okay, I'll do it again. And then you get back in that same snowball, and you'll be in bad shape in a matter of a little while. Once you turn yourself into a pickle, you can't go back to being a cucumber.
Yeah.
And that's true. A friend of mine said one time, once an alcoholic, once you get to be, it's no turning back.
But you did turn back, or you are turning back, Dan. And what happened to you? Was there anything specific that happened to you that, or something occurred that made you decide, hey, I've got to quit this?
Yes, sir.
And can you tell us about that?
Well, as after treatment and after the 14 months, and I started back drinking, and I never let go of AA. I didn't never leave the meetings, but I was so scared. I was afraid to let go of them because I knew, and I'm grateful, so grateful that I had that 14 months because it wanted me to want it back.
Sure.
But I went through 8 years of pure, before I got ready to do it again.
What made you ready to?
A DUI is one thing, and a night in jail. That was a huge deterrent, because after 20 some odd years of drinking and driving, they hadn't gotten me yet, and they did that night. And I said, well, this is the time to do it. I always wanted it. And I told a lady one time I'd give everything I had, which I didn't have anything, because alcohol didn't let me
save any money?
acquire anything.
Yeah. Spent your money on booze.
Yes. But I always wanted it back. But I knew deep down in my heart, and thank the Lord that I do have 4 years plus to the good. And I know how fragile it is, because I know people in AA that, 10 years. There's a lady in here in town that had over 20 and went back to it, and she had to go back through treatment again. So,
how tough is it now, Dan?
I don't think about it. I smell of a beer. The friends I'm around drink, but they don't drink alcoholically. Mm-hmm. If I were to drink tonight, I'd probably have 3 beers, and then I'd want a drink of hard liquor. Mm-hmm. That's what my thing is.
Do you still have the desire?
No, sir. I know where it'll get me.
Are you afraid to take another drink?
Yes, sir.
And that keeps you partially? That's one of the things that keeps you from doing it?
I wish to have my book. It's a list of the promises.
Right. Yeah.
And you get those when you quit drinking. You get all those promises. I used to know them by heart, and I about could tell you, but it's real nice. But
right.
But you'll lose every one of them if I were to have a drink.
Yeah.
That feeling of uselessness and self-pity would disappear.
Wow, what a great story. I don't know about you, but we here at It's a God Thing Radio are both inspired and encouraged and even awed when we hear stories like the one you're hearing today. We think God Thing stories prove to all who hear them how God continues to work every day in the lives of His believers. We also believe strongly that sharing God Thing stories with not yet believers might just cause them to remember similar events in their own lives. Hopefully, those remembrances will cause them to consider that there may be something to God and Jesus after all. Sharing your own God Thing story, yes, your own story, is a great way to witness to your family, friends, co-workers, schoolmates, and even strangers. Who won't listen when you begin a conversation by saying, "My goodness, you won't believe what happened to me a while back," or, "Gosh, I'm so excited about what happened to a couple at our church. Let me tell you about it." Then tell your own story or share one you've heard here. Doing so just might cause someone to accept Jesus as Savior and Lord.
Now let's get back to today's program. Now you told me earlier in some of our conversations, Dan, that you couldn't have done this on your own without the Lord's help.
Yes, sir.
Why do you feel that way? Or tell us what happened to make you feel that way.
Well, that's letting go and letting God. I quit fighting alcohol. When you don't get in the ring, you don't have to fight him.
Right.
And I tell people, to me, it's easier for me not to drink than it is for me to try to.
Boy, what a turnaround that is.
It's a lot of the stories you read in AA books and literature that this lady said that when she controlled her drinking, she didn't enjoy herself. But when she let the drinking go, she couldn't control what was going to happen. Right. But as far as what we mentioned earlier, the guy that's in the AA and he's on the fence and back and forth, I mean, that's about as miserable as a person can get, because he knows, especially if somebody's had a little taste of sobriety and they're out there. Just, I'd say keep coming back and take what you can from AA, whatever you have to use.
Well, it's a pretty comprehensive program.
It's a simple program for complicated folks, is
there you
what
go.
I say. But my suggestion is give it a try. Get sober one day and make it 2, make it 3, make it 4. Just one step in front of the other, and everything I can't paint a picture pretty enough for them to see it. You know, someone will hold a rock, because out there in that water, they'll hold that rock because they don't want to let go of what they know. Mm-hmm. If they let go of that rock, they almost could float and be fine.
But the rock is familiar, so they hold on to it and they sink.
Right.
What advice, Dan, would you give to teenagers? You know, when I was growing up, the neat thing to do was to sneak around behind a barn somewhere and drink a beer.
Yes.
And now then they drink cases of beer.
Well,
what advice would you have to teenagers?
It was a startling news segment I saw. The numbers are high as far as alcohol, and it seems like younger and younger. My advice is they better take heed. And here's another thing. A person doesn't have to have a problem with alcohol for alcohol to give them a problem. See, I've drove drinking 20 years, and what about the near misses, the almost could haves? I mean, they're endless. And well, it's like somebody that drinks only once a year can get in a vehicle and ruin his life.
And others as well.
Others.
Can parents help a teenager?
Yes.
That's started drinking?
I see so many parents nowadays, their rationale is, well, they're going to drink. Let them drink in my house, and I can, that'd be more. Alcohol is so socially
lubricating.
It's accepted.
Accepted.
And it's almost the worst, thing for all human ills can.
Then go back to alcohol.
Back to alcohol. Well, look at the prisons.
Yeah.
If get everybody to say be honest, they were either drugs or alcohol involved with the crimes they committed.
And usually alcohol led to the drugs.
Right. And, the spousal abuse, the missing fathers, because, the father not going to be there when he's chasing his next high or chasing his next drink. He's not available.
Well, Dan, can you wrap this up by telling some specifics about how God has helped you stay sober for 4 years plus? My
ritual, and I pray all through the day, but I know my main one is before I go to bed, before my head hits the pillow. I thank you for a sober day. I was sober for a year before I quit smoking cigarettes, and that's 3 years to the good, and I'm grateful for that. And I do that prayer, and I get up and I pray. Once I do that takes me out of the picture, because I go about my day and because let go and let God. It sounds so simple, but it's
difficult. Obviously, very difficult.
Yes.
And Dan, you've been through a lot. What about your old drinking buddies? Did they leave you?
Yes. Well, you know who your friends are.
Sure.
The people that really care about you, they're glad to see you doing well. But your drinking buddies, they don't want.
They want to find another.
No, you want to get somebody going, just tell them you quit drinking, and you won't have to worry about it.
Yeah,
that'll take care of itself.
Well, I want to wrap this up real quick, Dan. And first of all, thank you so much for sharing. You're going to be an inspiration to a lot of folks, and also an inspiration to some of those who are dealing with alcoholics in their lives. The Lord has put you on a new venture, and you have gone out on and started another business. And
third time's the charm.
Third time's the charm. Yeah. Good. Let's hope so.
I think Colonel Sanders went bankrupt 2 or 3 times before he finally made it. But I'm just so grateful to be sober, and the sky's the limit.
Sure it is.
And if I don't do nothing today, as long as I don't take a drink, I'm a success.
You're a success. That's for sure. Well, I'm going to try to help you out a little bit. Some of our listeners may be in Southwest Georgia or Southeast Alabama, and may need somebody just like you with your electrical experience and your plumbing experience and your mechanical experience. And so I'd like to encourage those of you that are listening that might live in the area and want to use Dan's services. If you just contact me through our website, then I'll put Dan in touch with you. Dan, again, thank you so much for your willingness to share a rather personal story. And we know that it's going to influence lives that you won't ever know about. So,
well, I'd like to add that if anybody hears this and that's going through what I've been through, keep an open mind and seek help. There's going to be some fine people that they'll meet, and just do what they do. And the AA's got a saying that they want you to try their way of life, and if you don't like it, all of your misery will be refunded. But I mean, if to seek help somewhere, to keep trying. But drinking's not what it's cracked up to be.
Again, I want to thank you very much. Can you say, Dan, that the reason you've been able to stay sober these 4+ years, that it was a God thing?
Yes, sir. I see it all the time. Small things and it's like God's got a sense of humor, and He's toying with you a little bit sometimes. And I couldn't stay sober a day at the time, so it's a miracle for me to be sitting here with 4+ years. I'd say the first year of sobriety is about the worst once, because I've had 2 of them, and I knew several AAers, they'd have 6 or so better first years. And I know how easy it could be to me to slip back into it, because it only takes 1 drink, and that's what starts the process. Right. But it starts in your head before you even pick up that drink. And you have to be keep your guard up against the stinking thinking, your old way of thinking. My sobriety is precious to me. It's worth $1 million, I think, to me, or worth more, because I hadn't had a hangover since.
Good for you.
In the workplace, just you knew the drinkers, they'd be holding their head till lunch. You didn't have a decent employee. I've had a lot of good friends that try to work me, and it's so much easier now that I can tell them I'll be there, and then I'll know I'll be there unless something I am sick or something. But and to cover up the alcoholism is the hardest job. That is
trying to keep people from knowing about it.
Yeah, I tell them I'd had the flu, but it would be the brown bag flu. And I was sick.
Yeah,
I couldn't, and I was sick, but it was like a self-induced. I mean, employers get tired of that, and the general public. I mean, you can't run any kind of business. You can't run any kind of life. You can't stay up on your bills and your taxes and what a responsible adult should be doing. Mm-hmm. I'm fortunate because there's so many guys out there my age right now. Well, this past 2 weeks, there was a guy 40 years old, 2 years younger than me, passed away. They had sent him home with 10% of his liver, and he probably could have made it if he quit drinking. and he didn't quit. And they buried him. 40 years old. And I thought to myself, there go, by the grace of God, there go I. So some folks don't make it, so others can. My best friend, I was getting sobriety, and you talk about you lose your friends. I was getting sobriety, and he had a touch of it. He had a meeting that he was going to, and I thought it looked promising, but he wouldn't follow right behind me. And I'd meet him at a store, and it'd be hey and bye in the same breath. And he was in a truck accident, alcohol involved, and a brain injury, and he won't never be right. He was a professor in Didnt College. He had so much promise, got 2 sons, and his life is altered, and hers, his wife's, alcohol. There's so many horror stories.
Thank goodness you're not one of them.
No, well, I could have been. I know there's so many people out there, and they don't want to go seek help, but it's just got to. If you were hurting, a friend of mine, he always says that, alcohol is just like you eating a sack of green apples, and it turns your stomach the next morning. But the last thing you want is a green apple.
That's right.
But that's not true for alcohol, because you'll be sick, and the first thing you want to get up, and you'll want another drink. And that's just insane. You'll pray to God on hangover mornings, and then 5 o'clock you feel better and you're ready to do it again, and it's a cycle of insanity. And that's a miserable place to be. I'm so grateful. I don't know what God's got in store for me, but I'm so grateful for the sobriety I have, and I hope to keep.
Well, I hope you will too.
Yes.
You're my friend. I've enjoyed getting to know you, and we've had some pretty serious talks and a lot of fun together. And then, I've been praying for you.
Thank you, sir.
And,
I pray for y'all.
And good luck in your business venture.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
We can trust him just as big in the hopeless situation.
Wow, what a great half hour this has been. Tune in next time for more great God Things stories, and tell all your friends to tune in too. Oh yeah, one more thing. If you or someone you know has a verifiable story which needs to be told, please email a brief summary to us at mystory@itsagodthingradio.com. That's my story, all one word, at itsagodthingradio.com. See you next time.